Okay, this is question Ribby Company. This has also been taken from ACCA Study Hub. Consolidation question. But again, like we know that in a consolidation question, several other standards are also tested. In this particular question, IS 21 is tested, and not only theoretically but also with respect to calculations and finding out the exchange difference and then the accounting treatment, what goes to P&L, what goes to OCI, etc. So very interesting and important question practice with reference to IS 21. Similarly, this question also has one part related to IFRS 16 leases, and that is actually very interesting part. This is going to be the last part of this question, Exhibit 4, which is about leases. So I would say that please keep your concentration until we reach this part D. It's going to be a very, very, very knowledgeable and interesting discussion on IFRS 16, which you have lease and then sublease. Something becomes investment properties, something becomes PPE, then revaluation or fair value measurement of right of use asset, and so on. So quite interesting question it is with respect to leases as well. And then of course, we do have this pre-populated spreadsheet response in which we have to fit in the numbers. Okay. So this is a very brief overview of the question. Question itself is interesting. So let's start reading it together. Ribby Company background. Ribby is the parent of a multinational group of companies, including Xi'an Company. The group's current financial year ends at 31st May 2009. The following exhibits provide information relevant to the question. One is foreign currency. Describe the currencies used by Xi'an Company. Xi'an Company provides information about the acquisition of Xi'an. Further information about draft consolidated statement of financial position. Then you've got head office and the lease agreements of the parent with reference to head office. Then you have the draft consolidated SOFP at 31st May 2009. The information should be used to answer the question requirements. Okay. Now let's see the exhibits. And before I read the exhibit, like we did yesterday as well, that I don't want to read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all of the exhibits. I want to see that my requirement number A, which I have to begin with, which exhibit do I need to read to answer that one? So if I come to A part, it says using exhibit 1 only, and the examiner is telling you that don't read 2. Using exhibit 1 only, discuss how the principles set out in IS 21, the effect of changes in foreign currency rates, are applied in order to determine the functional currency of Xi'an Company. So it is not asking you to explain the translation differences or the transaction or translation. It is not asking you what is the accounting treatment. So not the entire standard, only one part. The guidance you take from IS 21 to determine the functional currency. So all of your discussion, and that, by the way, is a long discussion for 6 marks. I mean, we know that. It is purely academic question. Based on the academic question, academic knowledge which you have, we will see the scenario for Xi'an Company and we will say that what should be their functional currency. Okay, so this is part A for 6 marks. Quite a lot of numbers actually for a very straightforward requirement. So it means that there must be a good discussion. So we will read only exhibit 1 and answer option A, and then we will read the other one when we go to B. So what is this exhibit 1? Exhibit 1, foreign currency. And this one exhibit should be enough to answer your requirement A. Xi'an Company is located in a foreign country and imports a raw material at a price which is normally denominated in dollars. So it is located in a foreign country and imports raw materials at a price. So raw materials are coming in dollars. The product is sold locally at selling prices denominated in dinars. So the local currency is dinar, foreign currency is dollar. and determined by the local competition. So you purchase the raw materials, but then you do some manufacturing, whatever, and you make some product, and that product is sold in the local environment, in the local currency, which is dinar. All selling and operating expenses are incurred locally and paid in dinars. Distribution of profit is determined by the parent. Distribution of profit is determined by the parent, Ribby Company. Xi'an Company has financed part of its operations through a $4 million loan from an overseas bank, which was raised on 1st June 2008. So there is a loan financing as well. This is included in the non-current liabilities of Xi'an Company. Xi'an's management has a considerable degree of authority and autonomy in carrying out the operations of Xi'an Company, and the company is not dependent on group companies for finance. Okay, this is included in the non-current liabilities. Management has a considerable degree of authority in carrying out the operations, and the company is not dependent on the group company for finance. Okay. Now, the information which is given in this one paragraph, or you can say the signs or symptoms which you are receiving, or the signals which you are receiving, they are conflicting. See, remember, you have got the presentation currency, you've got the functional currency. Presentation currency is the one in which you present your financial statements, and that could be anything. You are living in a country, and you can say by presentation currency could be, I don't know, of any other currency. That's not an issue. The problem is always with the functional currency. Functional currency is the one in which you will record your accounting transactions. Functional currency is the one in which you will do your bookkeeping, in which you will book your assets, liabilities, income, and expenses. And I mean, everyday accounting in which currency you do, that is called your functional currency. And IS 21, it provides you some guidance on how do you decide your functional currency. And there are some factors which I would say that the major factors you have to consider. And then there are some other non-major factors as well, but those can be treated as further evidence. So IS 21. Now, first I will just having a quick discussion on what are the rules, and then we will, once we understand the rules and we understand the problems in this question, then we can draft the answer, okay? So IS 21 says that the functional currency of any company should be, the current. It should be the currency of that primary economic environment. Okay, so functional currency, one liner when it begins the standard, it says that the functional currency is the currency of the primary economic environment. Okay. Now, how do you understand what is the primary economic environment? Because business might be having multiple transactions in multiple currencies. So when we say primary economic environment, then to further define it or to further explain it, the standard says that it should be the currency in which the selling prices are set up, or it is the currency which impacts on the process of setting up the selling prices. So one, that the currency which impacts my selling price determination, or maybe in which I sell the products. This is one. The second factor also comes in, which is, so now this is the major factor. Another major factor is that functional currency should be the currency in which the company pays its operating cost or its expenses like materials and labor and wages and so on. So this is also another sign. Then there is a third factor, which is about the financing, that the functional currency is the one in which the company has obtained its financing. This is a third part. The fourth part also comes in, which is that we have to see that where the management of the business is located. So you might be operating in country A, but all the decisions are taken in country B because the management is sitting in country B. So then country B's currency should be your functional currency. So we also see that what is where the decisions are taken. So where the management is located, who are taking the decision. So then that currency would be your functional currency. So this comes as factor number third. Fourth factor, especially in cases of these foreign branches or foreign entities, we say that how much autonomy do they have? So if you are sitting or operating in a country, but you don't take decisions, you're not independent taking decisions, decisions are taken somewhere else. So that somewhere else should be your functional currency. So these are three, four factors which we consider when deciding. Now, in this particular case, what is happening that they are their sales prices, they are selling their product in dinar. Their costs, one of the major costs could be the raw material. That's why they mentioned. The cost is in dollars and in dinars both. Then they have financing, and financing of this 4 million is in dollar, and they might have some other finances in dinar as well, and they do have, because this is not the beginning of the company. The entity was already working before. Okay, it is in dinar. Then we talk about another factor, which is the decision making. Decision making is done in the local environment. The autonomy about this running the business, that is also the local environment, which is dinar. Okay, so they are actually having an interaction with the US dollar with only two references. One is the cost of the raw material, not the entire cost, only the part of the raw material. And the second is the financing. So I can say that not so, although we do have some interaction with dollar, but it's not all of the cost, because there are other costs as well which are in dinars. And when it comes to financing, so this is not the only financing, they do have other financing as well, which might be in dinar. So apparently, although there are two factors or there are two signals which the examiner is giving you to think in terms of dollars, but if we see the picture, dinar is dominated. Okay, so the conclusion for this particular question is that their functional currency should be dinar. This is the first thing you keep it in mind. And now you have to explain what the standard says. And then you have to explain all of them one by one, because that's a 6 marks question, that how do they impact or how do they help you in deciding that it is the functional currency is dinar. Now, it is your choice that you mention this in the beginning, that the functional currency is dinar, and then you start explaining why. Or maybe first you explain and then you conclude in the end. It will not make any difference. It will be your choice. But you do have to begin with the criteria which is given in the standard. So IS 21 foreign exchange, it provides us guidance about the setting up or about determining the functional currency of any entity. And the standard says that the functional currency should be the currency which is the currency of the primary economic environment in which that entity or in which any entity operates. And the primary economic environment is that economic environment in which determines or which impacts the determination of the selling prices or the competitive forces, or in which the primary economic environment is that environment in which the entity earns its revenue or makes its expenditure. So this is the how to say, an initial introduction or initial first paragraph of your question, where you are not talking about the company, you're talking about the standard. So the standard says this thing. So we have to focus on, so the first two, the two major criterias are: number one, the functional currency should be the one in which the company prices its products, and number two, the functional currency should be the one in which the company incurs its expenditures. So these are the two. If we see in this particular case, okay, you can actually give some other guidance as well. You can provide a little bit of further thing as well. You can say that IS 21 also provides guidance that the determination of the functional currency, the decision to determine the functional currency is also impacted by certain other factors, such as, now I'll not going to explain, just list, such as the financing, which the currency in which the entity has obtained the financing, the autonomy which the entity has in making its decisions, and the management where it is located, the management where it is located. So these are the secondary factors as well. So I mentioned two main factors and three subsidiary factors. So that is all with reference to academic point. Now you come to the scenario. You say that Xi'an company, if we see the selling, if we see the sales prices, the information is provided that the selling prices are set up in the local currency, which is dinar. As far as the costs are concerned, they do have costs in dinars, and they do have some other costs which are about raw materials which they incur in the dollars. But we can say that not all of the costs are in dollars. Only some part of the cost, which is related to raw material, that is in US dollars. In terms of financing, they do have some financing for you in terms of in US dollars, but this is not the entire financing of the business. This is just one part of the total financing. They might have some other financing or capital in dinars as well, share capital and other things as well. As far as decision making is concerned, we can see that the company, Xi'an company, is they have considerable degree of authority. Use the same terminology which is given in the question. Okay, this is not bad. This is actually good. This is actually good. So they have considerable degree of authority, so that it looks like that you are not cooking up the things, you are actually making reference to the question. It is very important to use the same language, because when you develop argument, you use the words which the other party has given. Okay, so the Xi'an company has considerable degree of authority and autonomy in carrying out their operations, which shows that this business or this entity is independent in its local environment. And then they also do not depend on group companies for finances, which shows a further aspect of independence. Considering all of these factors, we can conclude that Xi'an company should choose dinar as their local currency. Although we do have some indication about the involvement of a foreign currency dollar, but that is not significant part of the business, and that should not be taken as the functional currency. The functional currency should be dinar. So this is how you might explain some of these points in more detail or in less detail, but the thing is that you should touch all of them. Or at least if you don't remember one of them, you can group them or something, but at least you should be focusing on selling price, on costing, and on decision making. This is very important. Okay. So this is answer to your question number 1. Part A, requirement, which is given in part A. Now, if we come down to part B, now that is also very interesting actually. You want to ask anything until now, please ask.